on this, so you can take a look at it later. So yes, straight off the bat, so that we cannot go to bed at a time. It's been a long day for every single one of us. What we're going to look at in this session is really how to get you hired faster. Yes, I'm a business analyst and a change manager, and a lot of the content that I put out there is about business analysis, like a lot of it, because I'm so in love with that profession. So I can't even explain how much I love business analysis. And the reason why I like it so much is it is beyond a title, it is beyond a profession. With business analyst skills, you literally can work anywhere. You can do anything. I'm not joking. Because if you look at the skill set and the mindset that you get once you get into business analysis and you get a really good business analysis training, work with somebody who really knows what they're doing, it takes you really far in any career path, right? And if you imbibe, I think that's the right word, if you imbibe some of those, well, not some, as many as you possibly can in terms of the skills and actually use them functionally, you would shine at work. Everybody would notice that you're doing so well at work. People would want to know what's going on with you. They would call you into meetings. They would send you off to represent them because you're doing so well. That's how good business analysis skills are. And I know because I've experienced it firsthand. Joking, right? I remember, and I've been, so I'm going to be 49 in December. So I've spent quite I've been in the job space for a while, right? Even when I was in secondary school, my parents would always encourage us to actually do bob a job and things like that. So I've been work. It's not something new for me. But then getting into business analysis, it opened up my mind to so many things that I didn't even realize were possible. And that's the beauty of business analysis. So I would encourage you, regardless whether you want to get into business analysis or not, just take this session seriously. I mean, if you want to even move within your organization to another department, to another role, some of the things I'm going to share with you today that have helped me across this many years and help my clients on a daily are absolutely relevant, and I know that they will help you as well. All right, so getting started, it'll be great to know who is in the house with us tonight. If you could just let me know, where you're coming from. uh I've also put a poll up there, so it'll be great to know your role, where you are in terms of your current state. So that will help me structure some of the work, the talk, yeah, in a way that would really be beneficial to you. So please just engage with the poll so I can know who's in the house. It would also be great if you can tell me, well, it's entire, you don't have to. If you tell me where you're also joining in from today. So are you here in the UK? Are you joining from Nigeria? Are you joining from anywhere else? It'd just be great to sort of know that. But for me, the most important thing is this poll that you have on your screen right now. I would like to really know where you are in terms of your career space, your career journey. Okay, fantastic. So I'm going to keep that poll going whilst we go on. What are the things that we're going to share today? Okay. Now, I'm an educator. By my background is education. So that I've done, even though I've been in tech now for quite a bit, but education is like my first love, which is why when I'm answering questions, I sort of there's a depth to my answers, and that's simply because I've spent a bit of time within the education space, and so I'm just trying to answer questions fully. And so I would run this session in an integrated manner. What it means is you might not probably see something called two lanes, communicators, recognizable deliver results. No, it's going to be integrated, right? Because every single slide is going to have a bit of this in woven into those slides. All right, so the poll is still running. If you could just keep engaging with that poll, that'd be absolutely fantastic. And we'll keep going. Now, there's another slide I'm going to put on, and that's which of these can you recognize? Now, the thing with any career space and people who want to get into career, forget the fact that they need to be recognized, right? You need to be recognizable, and that's, you can't find the poll. Okay, so I'm going to run the poll again, maybe because you guys just came in. So I'm just going to relaunch. Can you confirm that you can see it now, Emanuela and Deb? Oh, okay. Probably because you guys came in, after I ran the poll. So I'll end the poll, and then I'll relaunch it. All right. So I'm just gonna relaunch it. Yeah. But then we won't talk about the poll again. Okay, so I've just relaunched it. All right. So let's see which one of these icons do you guys recognize. Let's start with this activity. Please pop it in the chats. Let me know which one of these you recognize. So drum roll, which one do you recognize in all of these that is popping up on your screen? Let me see what you recognize. So put it in there. So I'm going to look at my second screen for this one, so I can look at your chats on my second screen. Okay, Pepsi, what's up? No, name them. Mama, me name them. I want to hear which one you recognize. Don't say all. You can say, and I'm going to start asking questions right now. So I'll ask me. That's the first person. You put yourself on the spot, my girl. Yeah. So this one, me, which one is this one? Excuse me. Page up, page up, page up. Let me get my pen up. This pen sometimes can be so annoying when I want it to just do what I need it to do.
The poll is still on the screen.
Yeah, I know that. But you can still see the slides, can't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. McDonald's, Lidl, WhatsApp, HSBC, Domino's, Mercedes, Jaguar, Domino's, Toyota, TikTok, Under Armour, Santander Bank, TikTok. I know. That's like, I got into TikTok in June and it's like, babe, my kids are like, what's going on with this lady? All right. So thanks for engaging with the poll, guys. I'm going to end it at this time. Thank you. So now I know who I have in the house. Okay. So there's Pepsi. Now, is there one some of you couldn't recognize? Which was the easiest to recognize? Let's start with that. Which one was the easiest to recognize? WhatsApp. I know, right? Apple. Easy recognizable. So many of them. Yeah, name them. I know. Apple, TikTok, exactly. Little, share, exactly. So many of them were easy to recognize. But there were one or two that some of you might have been, what's that one? What's that one? What's that one? Yeah. Somebody, for example, who has never interacted with the US space might find it difficult to know the ones that Omomi just mentioned, like your Target, your Chase, because they've never interacted with the US, right? The last one is Target. That's this one, isn't it? That's Target. It's a US brand, it's a US store. Yeah. So if you haven't really been in the US or interacted with it, it might be tough to know that. Now, take a look at Lidl. Look at Little. The name is even right there, right? Little. So you see it and you know it. And that's just it's just like that. It's easy for you to see that and know that. Yes. McDonald's as well, because it has that very distinct logo. They might be more subtle, right? But the reality is some of them you see them and you know them, some of them not quite so much. And that takes me to my next question. How recognizable are you? Right? For that role, that job you're applying for, recognizable are you? First of all, the ATS, we know that there's this automated system right now. It's automated for applicants. Like, do they recognize you? When you put your CV, are they like, okay, this one, we know this person. This person, he's the one for this job. That's the person we've been looking for. Like, are you recognizable? Or do they fling you away? I'm like, please take that person away from here. We don't know this person. But that's the reality of today's market. You need to be recognizable, not for a human, but for the applicant tracking system, right? You have to be. And that's the reality. Yeah, that a lot of us are facing. And I'm going to talk a bit more about the ATS towards the end of this session. So I'll take you guys through the ATS, and I'll also look at civil service recruitment, but towards the end of the session, not right now. So stay till the end of the session and you get that going. Now, what are the recognition signals? And it doesn't matter if you're coming into the business analysis profession. It really doesn't matter what profession you're coming into, right? You have to be recognizable. These skills need to be on there for you, right? And I like I mentioned, I'm going to use a lot of business analysis examples because that's the core of what the work that I do. Regardless, you still need, oh, this is so annoying when it does this. Regardless, I still need you to be able to use these concepts that I'm teaching in whatever job it is that you have. So think about your role and your identity. That's the first thing. You know, where you have your name, yes, sometimes we also have our location. Right under there, you should have the role. A lot of the times, we like to put it under the name as well. So let me use a pen that actually sticks on the screen. Yeah, so you have your name. You should have your role there. So project planner, business analyst, digital business, because the ATS is going to scan this place. This is like your red zone, and I'll show you that a bit. And you need to use a role and an identity that is recognizable. Your CV is not for you. Your CV is for the recruiter. So if you're creating a CV that looks nice for you, guy, throw that out of the window. That's not what this market is about, right? If you want to get hired, you want to get those callbacks, you need to be recognizable. You need to create a CV that actually rings the bell for the ATS and for everybody else. Okay, so that's important. Emanuela, the recording would be on my YouTube channel, so you will see the link on my YouTube channel. I'll share it and I'll talk about it. However, it will be on the channel. But to everybody who's registered, yes, absolutely, you will get the recorded link and you can watch it again and again and again. Now think about the core skills. So beyond your role and your identity, you also need to look at the core skills, and all of these are in the way job description. Your job description is like your gold mine. Everything that you need is on that job description. So you need to take the time to look at that job description. When you are called for that interview, go back to that JD. So don't be like Tom, Dick, and Harry, who simply apply and walk away. Mm-mm. And then they call you and you're like, did I apply for this job? Are you joking? Me? I applied? You did. You just don't remember it because you're not tracking, right? So you need to be tracking your applications because that is very important. To be fair, there's a recruiter who called, and when she started speaking to me, I was a little vague. And then I asked her a question. I said, is this from this particular organization? And she was like, yes. She introduced herself earlier. I was like, I must have missed that intro because they talk very quickly when they call you. So this is from there. I'm like, did you just say? And she said, when we were done, she said that me asking her that question actually helped me to know that I do pay attention to the CVs I'm putting out there. That a lot of applicants don't. And it can be very frustrating when you then have to explain the job or email them later because their CV was really good and you need to follow up with those candidates, right? So it's so important that you don't just apply, have a tracking list, have a somewhere you're tracking those applications because it might come back and bite you in the ASS if you're not tracking it. Okay, now another thing that you need to look at beyond your BA skills or core skills, regardless of the job, sometimes you could even already be a BA, but you're moving into another BA space, right? Thing with business analysis is like being a chef. So let me give you an example. When you're a chef, it's not just one cuisine. You can cook a la carte. You can cook continental. You can cook Chinese cuisine. You can cook Korean. You can cook Nigerian. You can cook breakfast menus. There's all sorts that you can cook. You're a chef. You're a chef. So you may have those core business analysis skills, but what specialism in business analysis do you really want to go for? And there's so many different specialisms. This keeps popping up. Literally. So you need to know exactly what you're doing and why you want to go to that specific specialism, because that is how you're able to use all of these things that I put on this slide quickly. Otherwise, you don't get called. It's about your business analysis anymore. It's about market alignment. And if you're not aligned with the market, I'm sorry, you're not going anywhere. It's like a black hole. You just keep dropping your CV in there. It just keeps fill it, and it's never full. It just keeps taking CVs and CVs and CVs. So you absolutely don't want that to happen to you. Then, of course, industry alignment is critical. Okay. And people always ask me this question. So which job should I apply for first? No. Right. And if I'm working with you as your career coach, that's easy because I know you. But if I'm not, and we just literally met on the streets of TikTok or the streets of Instagram or the streets of WhatsApp or the streets, know what you should apply for. You know your skill set. I don't know your background, but you do. If you've been somebody in healthcare, why do you want to run away from healthcare if you don't have any other experience? But if you're currently in healthcare and you have banking experience, insurance experience, um, manufacturing experience, transportation, logistics experience, fabulous, right? So you have quite a lot of fields that you can play in. But if there's only one specific field that you have, stick with it. It gives you the best leverage. And then, of course, your soft skills are also really important when it comes to the job application. Okay, so I'm just going to turn off this sound. Keeps messing with my brain when everybody comes. You know what? Let me just leave it because it's funny enough now. Let me see. Just give me a minute, guys. Let me take that out. Uh, let me just take out that sound. It's when people come in and out of the room. Yeah. Okay, so great. Now we can move on. Okay, so that's very important for this slide. Really important that you have that. Okay, so I've gone to click what I shouldn't, you know, and I didn't label this. So give me a minute. Let me get us back there. Okay, so now we're back there. So that's very important for you in terms of the work that you're doing. So your alignment is extremely critical because you don't want to be that person who doesn't know what you have applied for. You also don't want to be that BA who has applied with one CV and you're not tweaking that CV. It's not going to work for you, right? It doesn't just work in this market. There are too many people that are popping in those applications. So they actually need a bit of alignment in terms of you putting out your CV. Now, for any role, there's a bread and butter. In business analysis, there's a bread and butter. In project management, there's a bread and butter. In HR, there's just these bread and butter skills that are your skills. And what that means is 85% of your persona. It can be your LinkedIn, it could be your CV, anywhere else where you put yourself, job boards, it needs to be aligned to this skill set. Most ATS, that's tracking systems, screening systems, the cutoff is usually about 82, 87%, 80% for some even 70 something percent. So some percent are very niche roles where you might not really get a lot of people applying. So they have to sort of reduce that number so they can get in a good number of CVs. So what you need to then do is ensure that your core skill for that job is on that CV or on that LinkedIn, all of that. Something I do periodically, I don't think I've done it for a while now, is I refresh my LinkedIn. I used to do it every 8 to 10 weeks, because every time you refresh your LinkedIn, it's almost like you're saying hello to all the bots out there, and they then get attracted to your keywords again. And you might then get messages to say, oh, are you interested in this job? Yada, yada, yada. So that's something that I would encourage you to do. Because it puts you out there and makes you really recognizable. Your industry skills are also very important. They're part of your bread and butter. And then, of course, the JD, the keywords on that JD is also something that is important. So for you, what are your CV success factors? I'm starting with the CV, and I will go back to the CV again towards the end of this session, because your CV is what opens the door for you, right? Your CV, your LinkedIn, even if you networked and somebody knows the hiring manager, who then they put in touch with you or put you in touch with that hiring manager, they're still going to ask you for your freaking CV. I'm sorry. That's the key. That's the language. So it has to be aligned, right? So your success factors for your CV, the first one is the red zone. That's the top part of your CV, and I'll show it to you shortly. That top part of your CV is extremely important. Don't leave what should be in that top part for later because you're designing your CV. I'm sorry, it's not a website, it's a CV. Can you please put what the recruiters want to see at the top? You want to get hired. You want to be seen as relevant. Recruiters spend about 6 seconds on a CV. If you've happened to pass the ATS, recruiters spend literally about 6 seconds on your CV. Then they come back to it. So they are yes, no. So that's what they're doing. It's a yes and no pile. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. So sometimes they have all these tabs open on their laptop and they're just clicking it. Yes, no, no, yes, no, no. You don't want to be a no pile because you're trying to look nice, trying to arrange the CV in a certain way. And so the skills that should be in your red zone, you've taken them out of your red zone. Do that. Your red and orange zone are very important for your CV. Okay? Your orange zone is your experience, and it has to be aligned with the role. And you must have measurable achievement. You then have the yellow zone, which is like your skill section. But the reality is, your job description, your job title, your professional summary should already have a lot of those key skills, right? It should already be telling a picture and painting a picture that the recruiters want to go and check a bit further. It's like your data. Gosh, I can't believe I'm going to use this example, but here we go. You're talking to somebody. You just walked into a party, and you see this really nice guy across the room, or this really nice chick, across the room. Sorry, this example, but I use it anyway. And you're drawn to that person immediately, right? Because you're like, wow. And that's what happens with the ATS. The ATS has scanned. So your CV is sitting there across the room for the recruiter. And the recruiter goes there and says, wow. And then they sit to talk to you and they're like, you know what, let me just get to the bar and buy a drink. That's it, you don't see the person again. That's why sometimes you've done a fantastic CV. Yes, you've put in all the success factors, all right? And so you don't get that automatic rejection, unfortunately. How many of you hate that thing, unfortunately? Please just tell me in the chat if you hate unfortunately. 1 for hate, 2 for I don't hate. Let me see. If you hate it, number 1, put it in the chat box. If you don't hate it, number 2, don't put it anywhere. One, 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 one. Oh gosh, Glory, I don't know. Oh, Glory is here. I know it is so annoying after you spent time to tweak and untweak, you shaped that CV, put a lot of lipstick, done the hair for the guys, they've sprayed perfume, the cologne, nicely shaped, ghosted. What? What's in with this? I'm sorry, guys. I'm an Edo girl, so my Edo always comes out. Like, what is this? What? Why aren't you talking to me anymore? You just are not successful, right? And so you in that law where you don't get the immediate, unfortunately, because it passed the ATS, but then what happens? One, they scan it, the recruiter scans it, they're like, okay, let's walk away from this person. They put you in the no zone. And then after a while, you then get your fortunately. That's exactly what has happened. You've passed the ATS, but you didn't pass the human screening, and you want to pass the human screening. Again, I'll talk a bit more about that later. Now, I said I was going to show you a heat map, right? So this is what your heat map looks like, okay? It tells you exactly the place where they focus a lot of attention on. But some of us, somebody's asking me, so should I put my hobbies? If you want to do that, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But it's not the cocoa thing with your certification. Can you see? It's a light zone. It's critical. Most organizations will freaking train you. Now, caveat, it depends on where you are. I do understand that some, regions more than others love the CVs. So this is really taking a look at the UK markets. All right. Now, if you're in Canada, in Nigeria, in the US generally, I feel like those people are also big on not I feel they are big on CVs, I'm sorry, on certifications, but not so much in some other places, even some organizations outside of the UK. If you can prove your experience and you really show experience in like big named companies, they might overlook that certification. Because the reality is these big named companies may already have taken you, you may already have those certifications because they have trained you, either internally or externally. All right. So annoying when that happens, right? So now I've muted every participant, and I hate to do that because I like people to be able to interact with me. But now I'm going to have to, ask people to raise their hands. So I'm going to make a few people co-hosts just to help me keep the room clean, but not yet. All right, let's go over this training so that you are also not distracted. Okay, after a while, then I'll make a few people co-host so that you just help me. So sometimes, right, like I said, you've passed the ATS, you've attracted that male or that female in that party, but then the problem is they don't come back to you. And that's the major issue, right? You're unable to actually connect the dots. And so they've looked at you, you're great. Then think your dots are not dotted. And even on your CV, somebody picks your CV that knows what they're looking for and they look at it. The errors, there are a few things that the ATS will not pick up on. but then a human will pick up on it. And that's where the problem is. You actually don't have what the recruiter wants to see. You're not able to, even you on the inside of you, you're wondering if I get this. And that's what happens in interviews. You'll be called for an interview, but your legs are shaking, your hands are shaking, you're sweating. You're like, hey, if I go for this interview, will I be able to? You've got the interview, you passed it. It's time for work, and you're like, this job. You really can't connect the dots, right? And that's because where you are versus where you want to be, there's a difference. What's wrong with there being a difference? The question is, what do you do when there's a difference? And the first thing I'll say is your mindset, right? Your mindset is extremely, extremely important. I would always say your mindset before the methods. Yes, your methodology is great, but your mindset before the methods. For every job I've gotten, even contracts, working with clients, that interview, right? That dance between are we the right fit? Are we not the right fit? Is usually the most difficult. It's usually the most difficult. Once I go past that hurdle, the rest of it is not as difficult. So you need to say to yourself, take a deep breath. I can do this. Right now, if you cannot do this, I'll talk a bit more about that later. But if you've actually gone through the training, you've done maybe a similar job before, you have transferable skills, you did really well in the interview, then you have to activate your self-belief, right? Because nobody's going to give that to you. If you don't believe in yourself, you're not self-aware. To be fair, it even shows in your interviews. The way you would speak will be shaky. The questions that you would ask, you walking in, even on your first day at work, you're constantly bowing your head, subservient, you're trying to be more helpful than you should be. That imposter syndrome is having a laughing field day with you. In fact, they're having fun. They're like puppet masters, pulling you up and down, right? So you need to really work on your mindset. Competence, yes, begets confidence, but there are times where even when you have the competence, you're still not confident. So be self-aware, know what you know, and step into that space where you have been aligned. Now, from mindset, I've talked about that. That was our number one, which is very important. That's why I had a separate slide for it first. When you do have that, you need to go to number two, speak BA fluently. And remember, even though, like I said, I would use a lot of BA examples because that's like my sweet spot, my happy space, but it doesn't matter, right? Whatever you are, wherever you're going to, whatever job you're applying for, you must speak it fluently. And you're not speaking it like you are learning it. You need to speak it like you've done it before. That's what gets you hired. When I went for my driving test, I've been driving for years, many, many years, but I got into the UK, and for the first few years, I wasn't just bothered with it because it wasn't just on my radar. But then I then decided, you know what, let me even do this driving test. I started learning the theory. I got my theory, that was easily done. But then the practical, I needed to get people who worked with me to do that. And one of my instructors, said to me, he said, Gladys, and that's the eventual instructor that I used throughout. He said to me, he said, Gladys, you can't drive like you are learning how to drive. They will not give a learner a driving permit. That's why you have a learner's permit. You can stay on that for 10 years. You are learning. But once you have finished learning and you're saying to them, give me that driving certificate, they want to see that's your instructor, that you can drive. And that's the thing, right? In those interviews, on that CV, on your LinkedIn, wherever you're having those conversations, even when you go for hiring fairs, you need to speak it fluently. And it has nothing to do with your location. It has nothing to do with your job. Nothing. You just need to show that you can do the job. Which is why a lot of the times with civil service interviews, they are not really even interested in your what you put there on, it's eligibility criteria. Are you eligible or not? If you're not eligible, out of the door. If you're eligible, show it to us, right? And that's what they're looking at. And that's why I encourage a lot of people who maybe don't have a lot of UK experience to use the civil service route, the NHS route, because it gives you an in that you may not get in a lot of other spaces. Just saying. Doesn't mean that there's not things that you need to know how to do. Of course there is, but it's slightly easier. Okay. And then of course, and I'll do a bit of civil service towards the end of this program. Not a lot. Civil service is another session entirely, and I'll plan for that, and we'll do that together. Yeah, so you need to understand the role as well. So what's your mindset? Speak BA fluently or whatever role. Understand the role. What does this person really do? And it needs to go beyond your CV. Okay. For me, it's not just, and that's how I teach. I don't just teach you to be able to pass an interview. I teach you to be able to do the job, right? Because at the end of the day, you can't pass the interview, but you have your probation. Be it 3 months, be it 6 months. Can you pass it? And that's extremely important as well. You don't want to get your confidence knocked down simply because you couldn't do what you could do because you weren't ready for it. Yeah, and then the fourth thing is you need to understand the core competencies needed, right? For every job, there are core competencies. And if you can prove those core competencies, day one, right? Because that's what the hiring manager is asking you about in that interview, which is why you would always have the job owner a lot of the time on the interview. Sometimes the job owner might not be there, but a lot of the time the job owner is there. Job owner being your line manager, job owner, even maybe being somebody in a director level, you just might not know the person is in there. They're there in the job. My daughter, not recently, but she got interviewed for Williams Formula One racing. And in her interview, the director, is in there. She didn't even know till he followed her on LinkedIn and she was like, this guy don't. He thought it was just a line manager. He was the director of the role, right? So those are things that you might have no idea they're there, but they're there. Because at the end of the day, if you're don't, on the the department, I would call it, and you don't know the job, you're going to make them look bad, want to look bad, right? So they need to be sure that this person who is coming in is okay and they can do the job, right? Now, for any job, but specifically within the project space, there are these key phases that you need to understand: your discovery, your planning, and your execution. Your discovery really is like your ground zero, right? You're trying to understand what exactly is going on. And so for a business analyst, it's a lot of the discovery phase, and elicitation is happening in there as well. So all of that happens within your discovery phase. Why is that so important? It is and within the civil service, that would be your discovery, and then you have your beta and then your alpha, yeah, and then go live. But just talking very briefly about this. These are important because they would ask you questions pertaining to this in your interviews, and you need to be able to answer those questions. And a little later, I'll talk about the requirement engineering cycle. But you need to understand these phases as a business analyst. You have to. Going into the first one is your elicitation. What are the skills that you need to display on your CV, talking, and the artifacts and the tools that you use for doing this? It's action. You can't be telling me, I'm asking you in an interview and I'm saying to you, how do you ensure that your requirements are fit for purpose? You haven't said anything to me about what you're going to do in your discovery and elicitation. Like, you haven't said it, or you've told me that you're going to do a discovery, but you haven't said to me what sort of artifacts you would produce and the tools that you would use in that interview. It's incomplete. So you need to be able to say those things. That's what gives whoever is talking to you the confidence that you know what you're doing. And we're going to the analysis phase. Now, this is the requirements engineering cycle that we're looking at. It's a 5-part cycle. Okay, it's not a cycle. It doesn't happen linear. It happens all over the place. And when you come on my program, I'll show you how that happens. But it starts with there is the elicitation, there is the analysis. Analysis is the same thing as organizing those requirements. And then you have your documentation or requirement specification. And then, of course, validation. And then you have the management to it. You need to understand that. There is no question, none, that you will get in your interview, even when you start work, that is not going to be aligned to those phases. It's just not possible. It can go slightly out of it, but even when you look at the job and you analyze it strategically, you see that it still fall within that requirements engineering cycle. It just fall within it. So again, you go to the analysis phase. In an interview, when you're being asked a question, you must know where that question is coming from. If they're talking to you about stakeholder conflicts, yeah, it just means prioritization, which happens in the analysis phase. You need to prioritize according to what your MVP, according to the business goals. You need to say that. So your mind immediately needs to go there. If they're saying to you that, fit for purpose, of course, is elicitation. Actually, fit for purpose cuts across everything because you also have to talk about validation, even in the fit for purpose question. If they're saying, how have you improved something in the past? Again, they're looking at what? They're looking at your documentation phase, right? They're looking at your analysis phase, which is your design. So you need to know where those questions are coming from. And if you really haven't done the work, it might be difficult for you to know it, right? Or you haven't gone a training that makes you, you haven't really done a training that has exposed you to this. You're going to struggle. And which is why people come into, and I'm not knocking master's programs. I think they're fantastic. But you just need to know the limitations of your master's programs, right? Again, I'm not saying it's not good. It's very good. Very, very good. But I went to university and I'm doing the job. They're two different things. Two very, very, very different things. When my daughter was going to the University of Birmingham, my husband said he didn't really want her to go to the University of Birmingham. He said because it's a very oldish type university, and the way that they teach is still very oldish. It's not very industry. Even though they're trying now, they're bringing industry people into. A lot of my daughter's professors were industry. They work in industry, and we also have professors. But he didn't really want her to do her mech engine in University of Birmingham. He wanted her to go to a slightly different university where it was more industry focused, right? And that's what you need to understand. What you learned in the university, what you're using to work right now. Even if you studied accountancy in the university, is it the same accountancy that you do when you are working? But let's be honest, right? And that's the thing. A lot of people come in for master's programs, and you feel because you did a master's in business analytics, it translates automatically to business analysis. It doesn't. It really doesn't. There are a few things that you still need to learn, right? Because how that's just how life is. I'm sorry. It's just how it is. If I take a cookery book and I look at it, cooking the food is very different. So but when I even plate it, it might not look anything like what it looked like in the menu, in the recipe book, right? But that tells you is you have the foundation. Now you need to build on it. You need to say, what are core industry skills that I need to have? To have those skills. If you don't have those skills, then you're not as attractive. Now, this is specification as well. What are the skills you need to have under your specification phase? Writing the requirements, structuring those specifications, your user stories, your use cases. Use case I actually would put in the analysis. I do it in both. It just depends on the project. But then you need to also know these tools and the artifacts, and you must know how to sprinkle them in conversations that you're having. And then, of course, your validation, your management phase, requirements management phase, which is where if there's a change happening, what do you do with it? Your traceability matrix, you want to talk about that as well in this space. You want to talk about your transition, right? Helping people transition, which is where change management begins to happen within the BA space of influence, which is why as a business analyst, it's relatively easy for you to move into change management. You just need to learn, a few things, and you can effectively work in change management. So if you had to score yourself, right, based on all of these things that I've discussed so far, how would you score yourself? 0 being, I've never heard of them before. 3 being, I can talk about it confidently in an interview. I removed number 4 because number 4 is I can actually do the job. But I just took that out from here because we're not talking about the job here. We're talking about getting you hired. So all of that is extremely important for you. You need to be able to say, how do I score across these? How does my CV score? Which is why when you're doing I will do another session. Actually, I don't think I'll do that. I do that with people on my program. Yeah, but there's how to actually use, Chat GPT, Copilot, a lot of these AI tools to structure your CV such that you score highly on the ATS. But one thing you guys need to know how to do is find the ATS the organization you're hiring to is using, or use a general ATS and score yourself across the ATS once you're doing that CV, right? And if you don't score highly, you're not going to pass. And you can't ask Chatty to do that for you. Yeah. Understand where you lie beyond the CV. Remember, if your CV goes through, those hiring managers absolutely fall in love with you, but then they pick up that CV and they're scanning it and you're nowhere near, they're not going to call you, right? So be sure that you can. And then once you have passed the screening, the human and the ATS screening, when they then have a conversation with you, can you bring it home? Yeah. And that's where you need to track your competencies. In an interview, you must come correct. You must speak across the 5 stages that I showed earlier, which are your skills, your tools, your artifacts, and you need to add your results to it. So it's not just talking, right? It's not just talking. You must add the results to it. Now, there's the learning or the benefits, which is great. So if you're using the CAR, which is what I prefer, but STAR, civil service like STAR, But still, you can use your car and you can use your power in your civil service. And car is the circumstance or where you are current situation and the actions that you took and then the results. Your B and your L, your B are the benefits of your actions, not just for that specific problem that you solved, but how you can use it organization wide, and the lessons you learned as well that you're bringing into your new role. That's also something that you need to talk about, right? So those are really important and beyond just your actual metrics of we did this, but it's really important that you have that, because by the time the ATS scores you low or the ATS scores you high and you pass through, and then the recruiter looks at it and then you go into the interview. First of all, there might be the screening call. If you're struggling with your confidence and struggling to have those conversations, you're not going to pass through. And so getting hired is just significantly more difficult simply because you cannot prove your competence. What really is happening is that you're not recruiter ready. You're not translating your experiences across what you see on this screen. The left side, you're not translating those experiences properly. And so what the recruiter is seeing and hearing is really very different from what you think they're seeing and hearing, right? So your experience, how does it look? Does it sound like a BA in the sense that the recruiter sees it and they're like, okay, this person can translate BA experience, even if their role may not necessarily be a BA type of role, but I'm looking at that experience and it's aligned. I called them on the phone and yeah, they got it. That's it. Yeah. And then if you come to highlighting your relevant achievements, are you showing the value or are you just showing the achievements? You can't just be showing the achievements. The value needs to be there as well. Why? Because as a BA, our work is about value. So if you're not giving value, then there is already a problem. And then, of course, the right CV formatting. How confident does this person look when they're looking at it? That's very important, right? So you need to be able to get, again, demonstrate BA thinking. Some of these they would see straight up from even your summary statement. Some of it is looking through your CV and saying, how has this person represented themselves? Some of it is when they do that initial screening call, which is why they still have the screening call, right? Because they could have missed it. And then they want to be sure that they have not missed it. So your employability zone is this beautiful space right here. That's your employability zone, where what you can do, your skills match the language that they want to hear, your industry or whatever the industry needs is exactly what you're showing that you can. Relevance. It's not about your effort. It's not relevant to you. You could have put in all those beautiful efforts. I will clap for you, but you're not getting hired because you're not showing it, right? And then of course, here, the recruiters will do their alignment. So is that what the market is actively looking for? And you need to be able to align across these three spaces. Otherwise, you're not moving forward. All right. Does anybody have any questions so far? If you do, just let me know. Pop it in the chats. Remember, I'm actively monitoring the chats actually, so that I can be sure that if there are any questions, I don't miss it. Right. So that what I just said is the same thing that I'm saying on this slide. Your alignment is very important. If you want to get hired quickly, especially as a BA, you need to be able to speak the speak. And it needs to show across the different areas that you're looking at, that you're presenting. Those are your communicators, your CV, your LinkedIn, and eventually when they call and talk to you, those are your communicators. They need to be aligned with the industry, the right language, the screening, whatever screening is going on, you need to pass it. You need to actually know the job, and then you must be market ready. Yeah, those are extremely important for you. So it then means that when you think about your interview readiness, so this slide is for interview readiness, you should be on number 3. You can perform and you can explain it in an interview. If you can't do those things in an interview, then you might struggle, right? Because they're going to ask you these questions. And it's okay if you're on only theory. It's okay if you still need support. You just need to be able to do, which is why I mean, I've done interview prep for some people who don't even know jack about business analysis and they've gotten the jobs, right? Because they're able to position themselves for that job. But then it's beyond the interview. You need to be able to do the job. And that's where my program comes in. I'm going to talk a bit about my program. Then I'm going to then take you guys to civil service, back to recruiters and your CV. Remember, I said I was going to talk about the ATS a little later and what you need to actually be doing. So I'll show that to you, and then I'll show you about the civil service as well, and areas in the market which are hot right now. But I want to talk to you a bit about the career launchpad. This November, I have a career launchpad coming up. It's a business analyst role? So Chin also has a great question. He says, how can a data analyst position themselves to land a digital business analyst, technical business, they're all business analyst roles. What digital just means is that you're going to be working within a digital space, right? And so what you need to still have is the business analysis toolkit that I've just mentioned. You need to have that toolkit. You need to be able to say, what do you do in elicitation? As a data analyst, you probably have collected data from certain individuals, right? That is part of your elicitation. What was the structure that you used in collecting that information, in understanding the pain points, right? How did you realize whether or not it was a real pain point? So your root cause analysis, all of those are extremely important for you. You then need to talk about your analysis. How do you analyze your current state versus your to be state, right? Which is your process mapping. How do you see a problem, highlight that problem, resolve that problem, and then transition those who you're working with onto the new space? That is important. But just honestly talking about a digital business analyst role is tough, except I know the job description, because what might be needed is very different. And if we have a bit of time, I'll show you some certain job. If you're in the WhatsApp group, we'll talk about that later, maybe sometime next week, where the same job description, the same role has different job descriptions. Every industry, every organization basically slaps on what they want to do on it. But the reality is, if you want to get a business analyst role, you must be able to speak business analyst speak. And oh gosh, I keep doing this. I keep doing this because I don't use my laptop a lot. I actually use my other screen. So where my buttons are is a little different. So let's go back here. Okay. And I'll take you through this right now. What you need to understand about my program, and that's how I teach, right? It's more than the templates. Do you get the templates? Yes. It's more than the theory. Do I give you the theory? The answer is yes. It's very I really work to get you on stock from where you are, struggling to get a business analyst role or any role, and getting to that place where you can confidently do the job. All right. Now, and of course, there's still practice, and I had to practice after my bootcamp, but you have the tools and the techniques that you need. You have the foundation of what it is that you need. I provide proactives. I teach it myself, so I don't market it and I got somebody else to teach it. I teach it myself. Not that there's anything wrong in getting somebody else to teach it, right? But you're dealing with me who knows what I'm doing, what I'm talking about. Okay, so you get the support, you build your competence, your branding and communicators. So it's not just about business analysis. For this particular program, the Career Launchpad program, I actually work with you on your CV and on your LinkedIn as well, and your interview prep. Now, in a lot of my other programs, you pay differently for all of this, but I brought them together in the BA Career Launchpad because I understand that you do need it, especially if you're somebody who is new to business analysis or you're struggling to connect those dots. You actually need all of these elements. Now, Jin also asked a question about how to get a digital business analyst role. You need to know these five that I've put here. This is the business analysis work structure. You need to know them. What happens in your elicitation? How do you prove that with the work that you've done in the past? How do you show that you can create a requirements catalog? You're organizing and analyzing what you got from A in B. Extremely important. How about your documentation? Which are your user stories, your acceptance criteria? All of that is extremely important as well, right? And documentation is across all of the stages. You document in your validation, you document in your analysis, you document in your elicitation, even in your management, you're documenting. So you need to be able to talk robustly about documentation as a BA. Again, aligned with the questions, which would align with the job needs. That is something that you must be able to prove that competence. And then, of course, your validation. How do you do walkthroughs? What are different validation techniques that you use? You must be able to speak about those. Very important, right? And questions they would ask you in the interview will align to those roles. Now, if you are coming into a mature BA team, that means this team already exists and you're coming in to be part of the team, the questions and the expectations will be slightly different versus if it's a new team. A new team may not really know. So you might be the one that is even setting up the business analysis practice in that team. So people you might be talking to may have a vague idea of what the expectations are, but they might not know, really, really, really know it. Otherwise, they would have set it up already. Now, the thing with business analysis in the current market is a lot of the roles are fixed term contract. Are there some perm roles? Yes. But I've just spent some time analyzing the market. And I've noticed that a lot of those roles are fixed term contracts. It could be 1 year, even change management rules right now. It could be 2 years, 3 years fixed term contract, even a 4 year fixed term contract role. But a lot of them are fixed term contract. Why? The very nature of a BA is sort of transient in nature. If there's no problem to solve, and there no, which is why I'm just going to digress just slightly. You can't be a business analyst that is traditional. You must be a business analyst that is strategic. To be honest, in any job you're doing, don't be that person who just does the work. You must be the person who is commercially aware. A commercially aware person is somebody who will grow in the organization, because it's not just about this tiny frame that they're looking at. No, they're looking at the bigger picture and how that tiny frame can affect that bigger picture. And every organization needs that. And that's how you position yourself to be visible in your organization. The kind of questions you ask in those meetings, you just generally show that you are beyond just that little box. Yeah, you're somebody who is flexible and you can fit into any role, and that's important. Now, something that I also take you through on the job for this BA Launchpad is actually this entire cycle, right? Your plan phase, your design phase, our build, our test, and our release and flow. It's something that you're going to do in the BA Launchpad, and the business program has been structured to walk you through all of these phases. And this is the program structure. I'm just not going to spend a lot of time on this because I do need you to ask me questions as we go on. But this is what the structure looks like, right? We have live classes, 5 days initially, which is 2 days starting from 29th of November, and then another 3 days the following week, where I take you through the theoretical aspects of business analysis, like the foundational aspects. I teach you the theory, and then I segue from there into the hands-on understanding of what you need to do, what you need to know across the stages that I've mentioned. You actually will do the work. During your onboarding, I'm sending you links of tools that you need to download. Some of them you have to buy them, some of them you can use them for free, but you literally have to understand how to use those tools, right? On the WhatsApp group, one of the ladies who was on the group recently got a job. I mean, that was very exciting. And she said she was actually asked to do, I think, to talk through process mapping. Some BA interviews now are becoming very technical, where you actually, so somebody who talked about digital business analyst role, they may actually, again, it depends on the organization, but they may actually expect you to show them, like do a show and tell in that interview. And if you don't know what to do, you've worked so hard and then your competence just dips, right? Because you can't do the job. And so that's why the program is structured in this format. And what then happens is that you get the following outcomes. You learn and you will use those BA tools and techniques. You will create and present BA artifacts. You will master the foundation of business analysis. You will present yourself as a credible and hireable BA, like you would with your full chest. Got this. That's what you would do. You'll be able to reframe your experiences using BA speak. It's not just customers. Now you understand stakeholders. You're not saying, oh, let's check. You're saying, let's validate. So you are doing BA speak. And of course, like I mentioned, you're market ready, right? You have your toolkits, you have your templates, you have your CVs, your chronological. So there's several different types of CVs. And I'll show you one CV when we get to the end. And this CV has been doing wonders for me. So beyond just working with my cohort, right? I also put myself in the job market just to check if what I'm teaching them is still relevant, right? So I'm constantly learning and refining my skills. And I've recently got a few job interviews because of the chronological CV. So you have your traditional CV, you have which is chronological, and then there's the hybrid CV, yeah, which is very skills based. Yeah, so you have three major types of CVs: your traditional chronological CV, your skills-based CV, which is a competency-based CV, and then the final one is a hybrid. My hybrid CV has been doing wonders for me. I would lie. Can't even lie. Yes, I did. You do get a certificate at the end of the program, but it's not. So you get a certificate, but I don't know how to lie. Right? There is a business analysis certification that is industry recognized. Even some of your Google certifications are not industry recognized. I'm sorry. So will you get certificates? Yes, you will. I think the most important thing that you want to get from me is my recommendation, which I would give. And if you do really well on the program, I would give you a recommendation. I would also give you a referral. But if you don't do well and I cannot beat my chest for you, I'm sorry. I will not give you. So it's in your best interest to actually want to do well in that program. Yeah, because when I say that I get you job ready, I do get you job ready. But at the end of the day, it's up to you. What do I mean by a hybrid CV? A hybrid CV is a blend between your chronological CV and your traditional CV. Sorry, not your chronological, your skills-based CV and your chronological CV is the one that most people use, right? It's very traditional. It shows your summary, it talks lists your job according to the different dates that you've done it. It's chronological, right? It starts from your most recent role all the way back towards your other role. Then you have your skills-based CV, which is more like the skills, right? So all you're listing is is your skill set and how that skill set aligns with the job. And then at the end of it, you just list the organizations where you've worked. Okay. Your skills, for example, if on the job, and I'll pull up a job description so that I can explain how you would use both CVs. So I'll explain that. But if you look at a job description and they say things like stakeholder management. So you need to then show how you've done stakeholder management. So on your skills-based CV, you would have that skill, stakeholder management, and the different ways you have managed stakeholder management across different industries, and they would show plus your outcomes, right? So all of that would be on there across like that. And I'll show you guys one on this call today. And then you will then, of course, have your the chronological, like I mentioned. So a hybrid CV is then, a blend of both. It starts with your skills based because that's page, that red zone is where your recruiter's eyes are going. So you have made that CV to look that way. And so once they click on your CV, they're like, oh my God, this is sliced bread. We want this person. And then they can then go further and see, with two bullet points across the different other jobs that you have done. So that's what it looks like. Yeah. So these are the outcomes that you get in the program. And so if you're not just looking for something where you've done a BA program, just checks the box and said, I've also done a BA program, but you actually want one that launches your career, then you want to register. And this is the link to register, right? Of course, you can send me an email, you can send me a message, not tonight, please. Thank you very much. Or you can simply click here. Click that will take you to a Stripe link. And on that Stripe link, the program is £1,200, and you get all of this included in that program. Literally sliced bread. And in fact, actually, it's better than sliced bread. Okay, if you like sliced, if you don't like sliced bread, I'll give you whatever example that you want. But it's really good. It's a really strong. It positions you really strongly in the marketplace. Okay. So now this is where I need you to be, right? Beyond just speaking regular, and this is what you would say, I help customers resolve issues. But if you're talking about BA speak, you analyze customer complaints, identified root causes, and recommended process improvements. For example, when I was working with, you would then give a very short example that nails it. And for some of these kind of examples, because this is more like a technical question, it's checking my competency in complaint resolution. I want to speak first to the outcome and then take you through what I've done. Yeah, and there's a format. There's a format for everything. There's a framework for everything. All right, and then of course there is the regular speak, you recorded meeting notes versus BA speak. Right, so that's where recruiters. That's where you might stumble if you don't know how to connect those dots between what you've actually done and what you want to do. So to pass the ATS and then become that recruiter magnet that you want to have, and we structure this for you in the program. Actually, throughout the program, we encourage you to hire, to we encourage you to apply for roles. And I personally work with you on your CV, even your suitability statements. I work with you on all of that to ensure that you are ready. Yeah. As much as possible and give you that practice that you need as well, such that after the program, you will feel confident enough doing all of these by yourself. All right, so you get these are the things that you need Your role identity must be aligned. Your techniques and methods must be aligned. Your tools and your techniques, your soft skills, impact words, delivery and change signals, industry alignment, core BA skills. So you might want to take a picture of this slide because this is what you need to make sure that is aligned for you to get those interviews, to get those jobs it is that you want. So you might want to take a picture of this slide. Okay, so let me leave it for a few seconds. And this is how you honestly can not just pass the ATS, but have those recruiters sitting with you in the room. And then there is market positioning. How do you rank in the marketplace? Right? And that's where I talked about scoring yourself earlier. If you know you are in a 0, you obviously need a program, right? If you're in a 1 and in a 2, you need a program as well. If you're in a 3, you can't do it, then maybe you need like an interview prep, right? Because you sort of know what it is that you're doing, but you're not sure how to align for this specific job that you're going to. So what you need is probably interview prep. I have another program coming up in January, which is just a work experience for those who have done boot camps before that didn't work, but they know that they learned. If you didn't learn and you're not really sure, please sign up for my November program. It's that's what you need. Yeah. And so this is how you need to position yourself. Choose your industry. Remember, I mentioned that before, and this is like your current state analysis. Where do you currently work right now? Right? What industry do you currently work? And if you work in hospitality, for example, what are the organizations in hospitality you need to be looking at? Don't sit on just LinkedIn. Please don't do that. Go to the organization's website, right? They actually, I was in a recruiter session recently, about 2, 3 weeks ago, and something the lady said was, you actually are ranked higher by the recruiters when you actually apply from their website, right? From the Mayowa, take a picture of my number, and then let's connect. Yeah, so that's to go. So please don't just sit down on LinkedIn. Go to those into those and there are many other job boards, okay? But if you can, if you know the organization, please go on their website and go there yourself and go and click on apply from their website because that comes to them directly. Okay. And like I said, it ranks higher because they see that you did your homework to find them and even learn a bit more about the organization on their website. So please do that. And then review the job description. Know the job description. Do a gap analysis on the job description. These are the skills I have. These are the skills I don't have. And I know I don't have these skills. Say to yourself, what do I need to do? You then need to do what? Learn the missing skills. That is you closing the gap. So identify your current state. Understand how you rank. Position yourself. Once you do these, you will get into that role. I'm telling you, you will get it. But if you don't, or you're struggling with any of this, then it's going to be a little difficult because you're not going to be able to showcase yourself the way that you should. And if you don't, then there's another candidate there who is going to showcase themselves. I told you I was going to talk to you about the ATS, and that's what I want to do as we go along. But remember, my BA Launchpad program starts November 29th. We're not stopping. November 29th is when we start. And you want to register for that program so that you can truly position yourself in the marketplace. If you just do an analysis of jobs that you see in the marketplace, they're all BA and business analytics related jobs. Not all, a lot of them are within the digital transformation space. And that's where your BA skills stand very heavily. It could be even project support. A lot of project support roles now are looking like hybrid roles. They expect you to do a bit of process analysis, stakeholder engagement, and those are BA skills, right? So at the beginning of the call, I said, if you have BA skills, you can work anywhere. And I would say that a million times over. You literally can work anywhere and position really strongly if you leverage your BA skills. But let's look at your journey as a job seeker. So you first of all find the role, right? That's the first thing. You find the role, and then you tweak your CV, yeah, and then you send it through this vortex, this lovely funnel. And if you notice on this funnel that I have on the screen, the top part of the funnel actually has a lot more in terms of, sorry about that, it's wider, right? Because that's how a funnel is. Everybody is applying, whether they have the job They have right to work. That's another thing that recruiters are asking for. So if you do have right to work in the UK, put it on your CV as well. Okay, that's something that you should have, because ATS is also crazy, isn't it? ATS is scanning for that as well. So you want to put that on your CV, all right, if you do have the right to work. All right. So it goes through the vortex. You may get a follow-up, you may not. You might be the one that is following up. And then sometimes it's just dead zone. And the reason why it is dead zone is because the ATS has checked it. These two things happen once you go into that vortex. The first is the automated scanning, right? The applicant tracking system will scan. Is there a keyword match? Data parsing, that is literally just looking like that, is checking, which is why things like your tables, pictures, some images is not a good idea because it just can't handle it. All right. So take all of those beauty out. It's not important, please. And then, of course, ranking. Oh, did I just put EANK? Sorry about that. It's supposed to be R. Ranking and scoring also happens. They rank and they score. They rank you either as a top applicant, a middle level, or a low level. So the top applicants are the first that are going. So maybe that's like 90 and above. But if you score, like I said, usually about 80 and above, 85 and above, you will get a human to then look through your CV. So once you are ranked, then you are already in a great place. Yeah. And then of course there's the human scanning, right? If the human scanning relevance and key details are not there, they chuck it out. Your achievements are not there with the outcomes, it's chucked out. Qualifications and red flags, they're also checking that, right? And the reality is you need to have industry expertise that is working. And everything that you do will demand a strong management of your time and productivity. So you need to be productive when you're putting together that CV because you have these two that you're dealing with. And if you don't do it properly, then you're not going anywhere. Now look at the ATS, how it works. So again, you might want to take a picture of this slide. Number one is the right keywords. If your CV doesn't have the right keywords, you're not going anywhere. So requirements, processes, stakeholders, if they're missing, it might be an automatic rejection. All right. And keywords are ranked as well. These people, it's an employer's market. Deal with it. Your keywords are also ranked. So it's not every keyword that is important. That is important. So you need to know what keyword to put on your CV. And you need to know how to put it on your CV. So it's not like as if you're just dazzling with keywords. Because when it gets to a human, and that's the problem. If you put in keywords in a way that doesn't work, it gets to a human, guess what happens? They're like, nah. This person just structured their CV to pass the ATS. I'm like, yeah, of course I did. But then it has to be human ready as well. And then your formatting, you need to format it in the correct way. So, like I said, no need for funny business. It's not important. Because if you put all of those things, it might be misread, or it might, some of the data that you've put in, they might be missing. So how do you get hired? If you do these two that I've said, your CV will be soon be seen by a recruiter. And if you really can't have done that CV properly, and the next slide is going to talk about the recruiter and how you then go past the recruiter's own scanning, you will get called for an interview. Then if you have the skills, you will get the job. That's it. For you to pass the interview, to pass into the interview stage, it means that you're somebody that they even want to hire, right? If they won't, your CV will be chopped out. They'll tell you, unfortunately, we found somebody, you're not right for the job. Keep checking our website for lovely roles like this. That's it. And then clear and chronological. So dates, order. Of course, this doesn't apply if you're using a um, hybrid CV or a skills-based CV. Your hybrid and skills-based CV are really good for civil service roles. Really good. I'm not joking. Very good. So for those jobs, because a lot of the time, and I'll get to that in a bit, but yeah, so some of these people don't use as much heavy ATS screening versus because they're looking at what suitability criteria. Yeah, so that's the sweet part about that skills-based CV, and I use it a lot, and I get good results. Let's just put it like that. Okay. And then, of course, your relevant job titles is also very important for you. Okay, because that is part of the score. Anything else will lower your score, and you don't want that score low because there's a cutoff. And then, of course, ranking and scoring. Only the top matches will be handed over to a recruiter. Now, this is how a human scans your CV. It gets the human. Remember that heat map I showed you? You see the places where they are looking at, it's so quick and it's 6 to 8 seconds. For some, it's even 5 seconds. Like somebody has told me that somebody scans in 3 seconds, like 1, 2, 3. That's if they don't see it, that's it. It needs to spring out to them. I don't understand. That's not just wickedness. I don't know what it is. But anyway, that's it is what it is, right? That's because they get hundreds of CVs. Hundreds. So they actually had to use an ATS now because there's just too much people chucking in CVs, just throwing shit at the fan and hoping that it sticks. So that's what's going on. I'm not saying that your CVs are SHIT. I'm just saying that that's what happens. Okay. So again, that scan, you need to be sure that the top third part of your CV, which is the highest priority, has all the things that they're looking for. Like literally put it in there. And then your recent experience is a fast scan. They're just checking, do they have the recent experience? And then they're going to check, it's quick, but spelling, grammar, formatting, sector relevance, all of those are sort of red flags. And so you don't want to miss it out. If your spelling, your chronology, your times and dates are not matching, those are red flags. And you don't need that for your CV. So what it means is that for a job seeker, you need to mirror the job description. If it asks for 10 years, please put 10 years because the ATS will be programmed for 10 years. Don't put 15 years. It will reject your CV. If it's 6 years, please let it say 6 years. You can say plus at the end, but that 6 years is going to be picked. All right. It's critical. It's crazy, but that's the reality of the job market. Okay. Use a clean and simple format. Don't do too much paparazzi. There's no need for it. The critical info at the top, because that's where the recruiter is going to spend the most time on your CV. And if you do a Google search, or I've done it for you and I've put it on the slides and I'll show you soon, it will show you the F and the Z formats that recruiters use in scanning CVs, right? It will actually show you a heat map that is showing you where the eye is going, the recruiter's eye. So you need to absolutely mirror that. It's really important that you do that. So Deb, if you don't have experience, and that's, let me come back to this question, okay? It's a good question to ask. I'll come back to it. I just want to finish this so that I don't sort of get derailed, but I'll come back to it. And then, of course, focus on your achievements, not the task. Avoid the red flags. For civil service applications, you need to meet the eligibility and minimum criteria. And sometimes when there are too many people, that minimum criteria. So I had a client who passed the minimum criteria, and then they emailed her back and said, "We are so sorry, but we have too many people. We've had to raise the minimum criteria, and unfortunately, you fall short." But she had passed it before. So it's crazy. And then there's the behavior and SIFT experience, which is the manual scoring. So once they scan for the minimum requirements, then they go into behavior. And this is actually a human being doing this. And then there's the experience SIFT summary. Again, if there are too many people, they use the SIFT. And then there's a short list for interviews. So remember success profiles. And if you look at the success profiles, it always says if they're going to change it, they would let you know they've changed it. Otherwise, just stick to that success profiles. So for civil service, I've shown you the key takeaways for the others, and I'll still show it to you. For your civil service, please use STAR for everything. It's not about keywords, about evidence, structure, and impact. Evidence, structure, and impact. So for every behavior, use one example. Don't go and be using many examples. Don't do that. But that one example, let it flow. Show the evidence, we make it structured and show your impact, like an improvement that you made. It is so important for your civil service. And sometimes they're not asking you for a lot of information, Abby. They'll tell you 250 words, 500 words. It's a few applications that are doing 1,500 words, but those ones don't even give you a form. You don't even fill any form. It's crazy. Ministry of Justice was like that. They didn't give any form. They just asked a few questions and then they didn't want your CV. They didn't want anything. Keep it. Just answer these questions and do a 1,005, 1,700, I'm not sure, word page of your evidence. That's all that they asked. That's all that they asked for. That was a very interesting one. Universities too, interesting. Okay, thanks for that, Daniela. So universities too are doing that, right? So that's what they use. So you need to know how to show your impact and then match the grade. Okay, admin and coordination, BAPM, analyst delivery, that's HEO to SEO. G7 is leadership and strategy. G6 is senior leadership. So be sure that you know what grade you are applying to. Otherwise, you might be making a mistake and you don't even realize you are. And then write like a civil servant. They don't have plenty. Right. They just go straight to the point. All right. Now, this is what I said to you about the human eye CV scan. You see how the human eye will scan it eventually? It's either an F or it's a zigzag like this. So it's important that a lot of your info. So forget this picture, guy. This is what I saw on Google. Okay, so just forget that guy. So now please don't put a picture. But this was important. You see his role there, marketing manager. Very important. And then he's putting a few other keywords in there, and then he's put his name, his details. So this one is like an initial, it's like a key summary of who this person is. It's very impactful. It's like an impact statement that you put up there. And the recruiter would always look at it. If you have the right keywords and you say it in the right way, it scores you big points, very big points. Okay. And then, of course, the other details are in there. So, what people are saying now is on this section, just put your valid right to work. If you are in the UK, please put your valid right to work there. All right. So, you can see the scan, it's either an F or it's a Z. And then they know whether they're going to flip to the second page or not. Most people will say keep it to one page, but there's nothing wrong doing 2 or even 3 pages if there's stuff in there. But really, what do you want to put that is so much? There's no need. They're not going to look at it. That's the truth. Nobody's going to read that CV from top to bottom. So you want to make it as concise as possible. Now, when you're hiring, these are the hot areas right now. Organizational change, digital transformation, which is where BA, PMs, project spaces, data-driven decision making, also very data focused. BA as well is in this area. Automation, of course, process mapping, all of that is part of the BA skills as well. And public sector transformation. Literally everybody in the public sector right now is doing some level of transformation. So you want to get in there. There are roles in there. They might not have your traditional titles. Don't stick to traditional titles. Just look for the role. Look for the skills. Focus on those. And once you have those skills, you will be called for an interview. It doesn't matter if you don't even have the right title. As long as you have those skills within the public sector transformation space, you will get it. And then, of course, there's customer experience improvement. Yes, there's a lot of AI agents that are happening, but they still need people to manage, the human side of things, the people side of things as well. So there is still some job in that space. So these 6 are hot areas in terms of if you're looking for work, and it's not work that is going to get knocked off the job list soon. It's actually future proofing the emerging trends in the market space that are happening within these spaces. So it's a good place for you to apply. So when we talk about the intersection of your success, these are important for you. Your skills, yes, what are your goals? Do you have the right skills? If you don't, then you need to put that in place. What is it that the market needs? And what are your communicators saying? When you intersect these 3, then it's more than likely that you will get hired. I'm not joking, you will get hired because it's expensive to hire. So they actually are looking for people to hire, right? So that's why you need to put in all of these things I've said to you. Your CV is really important that you have that done. Not just for an ATS, but also for a recruiter, a human person looking at it, have the right skills so that when they're talking to you, you can actually speak the speak. Okay, on those screening calls. Some jobs don't even do screening calls anymore. It's straight into interviews, right? So if you've messed up, you've messed up, right? So please be ready. And if you're not ready, join the BA Launchpad, as you can see on this beautiful vision board that I've put in place. You want to change your job, you're not sure how to change your job, join the BA Launchpad. And then when you've joined the BA Launchpad, you job and you can absolutely have more money to attend your favorite concert. All right, so you might have your goals, you might have the reason why you want to do this, but these are really helpful for you. If you don't have the right skills, then you're not going to be able to move in the direction that you want to move. So make a move and get the right skills. All you need to do is type the BA Launchpad. You can do bit.ly, so forget the HTTPS, just do bit.ly/BA with KK with K, and you will get the payment link. But if you need more information, then send me a message and I can send you a bit more information. Now we will go into question and answers, but I want to say thank you all so much. So if you want to contact me, please take a picture of this slide. My number is there, my email is there, and we can talk offline. Yeah. Thank you guys so much. If you have a question, please raise your hand. I'll be happy to take that question. But let me go to the question that we had. Um, Deb asked, what if you don't take so much? But I hope this has been helpful. Yeah, has it been good? Do you feel more confident now in terms of going in and putting in an application and doing some work by yourself? Thanks, guys. Thanks so much. Thanks, everyone. Okay, so I've explained the hybrid CV. Fantastic. So great. So I hope, okay, I'm happy that some of you at least will be able to leave this session and know what to do with your CV, know how to actually get yourself hired because they're looking for people, right? And it's easier for them if they find the right people. So if you're that person that has the experience, don't don't be worried. Okay, go out there and get the job that you have. Okay, that is waiting for you. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Deborah. Okay, so what if you don't have enough experience? How do you pass the ATS? Now that's where honestly there's always something called transferable skills. Okay, and with your transferable skills, what you simply do is you structure the skills that you do have to align with business analysis. Okay. Now on the BA Launchpad, I've created one particular session for transferable skills because I realized that I didn't, that's something that people don't know. So let me give an example of your transferable skill. Debbie, if you can raise your hand, is that Debbie? Yes, Deb. Oh, I don't know if it's Debbie or Deborah. If you can raise your hand, it will be really good so that you and I can have a conversation. So I'll ask you to unmute your mic and we can talk, right? You unmute your mic, you can talk, you can actually ask the questions. Yeah, because I think that that would be very helpful for you. Yeah, so that I can know, I can ask you some questions as well and help you understand what BA speak would sound like for you. Is she still in the room? Uh, or he, I'm not sure. Okay. So imagine that Deb O works in a restaurant. So let me use a restaurant space. If you work in a restaurant, for example, you might say to yourself, oh, you're in a loud environment, that's fine. You might say to yourself, I don't have any transferable skills. But guess what? In a restaurant, you've documented the needs, the what you have a menu, right? Which is where people would say, I want this, or it can be a bespoke meal. But then somebody has to document their order, right? Those customers who have come, those customers are your stakeholders if we're using BA speak. What they have ordered is what? Their requirements. That's what they want. That is their requirement. You're then going to sit down and say, do you want it to be spicy or not spicy? Those are functional requirements that you're going to the um chef to say, you know what, don't put too much pepper. They don't want it. Now, do you see the pepper? Not necessarily, but when you taste it, fire. And that's why it's non-functional. So I'm just dramatic, just ignore this drama. That's why a non-functional requirement is, right? And that's what you would use. So that, in essence, is you understanding functional and non-functional requirements. The chicken that they want from Nando's, they can see, they can eat it. But is it spicy or non-spicy? That's something they cannot see. That's non-functional. So that is you within a restaurant situation, actually showcasing those skill set. Of course, you won't say that I ordered chicken. Actually, you can have even used that. I've used that for one of my clients before. I said that so she wasn't sure. She was working in a airline space, right? And I said, when you go for an interview, tell them that once you had to go to your children's school to understand what exactly was going to happen in the next class, stakeholder engagement, not there, because you wanted to go and find out what my child is going to be doing, right? So that's you going forward to elicit what are your requirements for me as a mom for my child. So there's experience everywhere. You just need to know how to structure it. So you might think you don't know the right experience, but if you use the right tools, it will structure your experience such that it will pass the ATS. Right. And that's where civil service, CV writers come in. I do have a CV writing service. It's not it's very difficult because maybe I overdo it. But if you wanted me to write your CV for you, I'll be more than happy to do that. But I mean, if you did the BA Launchpad, you will get it anyway. You get your skills-based CV and you get your chronological CV, right? And it comes with the program. And that's something you absolutely want to get. There's another question that says, would I advise individuals to name themselves junior business analysts on their CV? It does lowball you. A business analyst is a business analyst. You are applying for the role will tell you associate business analyst, doesn't it? So why are you then putting it on your CV? And remember that you're tweaking your CV for every role, okay? And you are hiring for a particular, you're responding to a particular job. That's not the level you want to be forever. You would like to grow. So don't, like you said, lowball yourself. It's not a good look for you. So put business analyst there. Your skill set would align with the job anyway, which is what the recruiters eventually would use when they want to have that conversation with you. Okay. So this type of cohort is going to probably be in March, maybe end of February/March, more of March is when I'm going to have the next group that is a BA launchpad like this. It's actually ground zero, and I take you all the way up. So even if you feel like I've learned something that I feel I need to unlearn, then this program is for you, because I would help you unlearn some of the things that you've learned that may not necessarily, you didn't need to learn it, or it wasn't structured in the right way. So the next sort of this program is going to be more than likely March. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions, guys? Please ask questions. Ask questions. You want to get into business analysis, you want to get into project management, you're struggling to connect the dots. That's why I've organized this, so that I can actually support you in that. So please ask questions so that we can do that together. So remember, I will send you the recording of this slide, the session. If you did register, you do get the recording. I'll email it to you once I've uploaded it, and you can always watch it again. Any other questions? Why are you guys so quiet? This is Nick. So interview prep is usually one-to-one. I'm trying to organize one. I thought I could do it this November, but I honestly couldn't. It was just too much. I had too much on my plate, so I had to cancel it. And so I'm allowing people to unmute themselves now. So if you want to ask a question, just raise your hand and unmute your mic. But I'm trying to see if I can do another like interview prep cohort. I don't know. Oh, right now. But maybe November. But I do interview preps one-to-one with people. Yeah, I do one-to-ones right now. Maybe I'll do something in maybe February, January, February. I'm not sure. But yeah, I do feel like people need that. Who knows? For maybe my WhatsApp team, something else like this, we might do one in-house on just interview prep. How do you get ready? So yeah, we might do one and just use a job description. So if you're not in the WhatsApp group, you want to join the WhatsApp group, because you might want to, you might get that. Yeah. Certifications. So to get a job, you don't necessarily need a certification. That's the reality, especially if you're in the UK market. You do not, I will say it again and again. Yeah, is it good to have? Yes, but they're the gray zone, they're the light zone. Your recruiter is not really looking for that. Okay, it's just something that screens out people. Okay, it screens out people such that when people see it, they're like, let me not bother to apply. I don't have it. Or they're not looking for that. What they're really looking for is the experience. But if you do want to get a business analyst certification, I would say you can go for the BCS Foundation certificate. There's also the IIB. I don't do IIBA because that's usually North America. So if you're in the UK market, I'll say the BCS. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with the IIBA, to be fair. It's just not something that I did because I didn't see its relevance for this market. But have I read the books? I did. Yeah. If you're following me on TikTok or on Instagram, if you click on my link, the link in my bio, you will see the link to the TikTok, to the WhatsApp group on the link in my bio. And so you can click it from there. Yeah. So it's been a good one. Since we don't have any other questions and nobody wants to speak, so yeah, I'm hoping that I would hear from you guys. And I'm more importantly, I'm really hoping that you guys would actually go out there and start to do the work to get yourselves into business analysis. My name is Okeinfo Ajayi. So if you Google that, you should see me on IG, business analyst coach. Guess I should have put some of those links in here. But yeah, if you just do the business Okeinfo Ajayi or the business analyst coach on Instagram, you would find me. Yeah. Okay. All right, everyone. Although when I send you an email with the link to this, I'll add in all of those details so you can have them as well. All right. So please, guys, go out there and please start to put those applications through. Align yourselves, like I said, so that you can absolutely go through past the ATS. And then, yes, oh, thanks, Michaela. Okay, so Michaela has put the chats. Oh, Michaela, that's so amazing. Thank you so much. So she's put the chat for the link to the WhatsApp chats in there. Oh, thank you, Michaela. That's so sweet. That's so sweet. Okay, so yes, I would still add it to the emails. All right, so please go out there and start to apply for those roles. Don't knock yourself out of the running simply because you think you don't have everything that you need. Sometimes what you're looking for is what they want. So please go out there and keep applying. And if you have any questions, ask it on the WhatsApp group. Connect with me across one of the different social media handles. And yeah, it'd be great to hear your success stories. Yeah, Tolulope, please, of course, go ahead and speak.
Hello, hi.
Hello.
Hi, good evening. I really appreciate you giving us the opportunity to join your section today. So
Thank you.
I just have a few questions just to add up. So in terms of the interview itself, do we need to still explain methodologies in regards to the waterfall, agile, so on, or we just
Why
have to just
do you need to do what?
so talk about the methodologies in terms of the project you've worked in, if it's a agile waterfall, just to
It, dep-
let them.
it, that's a great question. It really does depend on the sort of questions that you're asking in an interview. I've been in an interview where I was asked, and the thing is, they have core interview questions, then they have sift questions as well, even in face-to-face or virtual interviews. If they've asked you all the other questions and you're really great, they might ask a sift question. And simply because they're like, you know what, all the people we've met are fantastic. Let's throw in this curveball question. And that is something you need to be ready for. So they might ask you and say, oh, in what environment would you use an agile versus a waterfall environment? They might say, if you're working in this type of environment or with this type of project, what is the best methodology for it? That's just testing your understanding of agile, waterfall and hybrid work project environments, right? But again, it just depends on the sort of role that you're applying for and who your interviewers are.
Okay, okay, all right, thank you so much.
Yeah. I mean, in any interview, the expectation is not like you give a thesis type answer. It's just very clear. So if they ask you, for example, you're working in a um, finance environment and there's a project that has just been approved for the creation of a new customer management portal. Gosh, what I thought about that, right? How would you approach it? So that's approach right there. So you're going to say to them, that's a great question. Because it's a finance environment, I will approach it because it's a finance environment and it's a regulatory environment. I would use a waterfall hybrid. I would use waterfall because there are some regulations and governance frameworks that we absolutely have to adhere to. And these compliance frameworks are aligned within the regulatory bodies. So I need to be sure that I can pass through those, that I do get all of that in terms of our governance framework. And then because it is a customer portal, I would use the agile for that section of it because it's customer focused. I would like to do a UX UI that is going to align with the customers and what it was is that they want to see. So that's how I would answer that question. And I'll say, for example, there was a project that I worked on, and we worked on a housing environment where we're creating a tenant management system, slightly different from the financial sector, but still a regulated sector. And what we simply did was that we did, and then I'll give them a very short example and I'll wrap it up. I've shown you that I know exactly why I would use this over another, and I'll give you an example as well. And that has answered the question 100%. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. It does make sense. Then one more thing. So in terms
Mhm.
of the um, uh, project, the elicitation of the requirements, um, so I had an experience where I think, well, so when I went back to, give feedback on the interview, they were able to give me feedback. So they stated that,
That's right.
not that I didn't break down the elicitation well. They also stated that they wanted to get like in-depth, you know, process of how I maybe
What
work
was the
on it. But
question they
then
asked you?
so this like give us an instance where you were able to elicit requirements in terms of the project you worked in. So I
Okay.
just started with the whole of hi, my name is Tolokwa Adewale. When I was eliciting the project for optimizing Autobots into our system to reduce the customer wait time system in my organization. I was able to get the understanding what the project was all about, the project needs, and the objective of the project. Then also getting the breakdown of what the scope was all about. And after getting that scope, I was able to work with stakeholders for us to draft the objective, so we know we're not going but be within the scope of the project and not getting to the scope creep. And then I went further to also explain that. I then diverted into getting involved with the stakeholders, knowing what stakeholders I'm going to be working with in the project. And then when that was all, documented out, I then also went out to understand what technique I was going to be using to, communicate with my stakeholders, which I've used some few techniques I've worked with, which is research, interviews, and also shadowing as well. But I then also consider if most of the stakeholders I'm working with are going to be offshore or onshore. So that will be able to allow me know what technically that we used to be able to communicate with them more frequently, because some stakeholders might be abroad and look at difficult to schedule some certain meetings that I'm currently in the UK and they might be in the US, and I need to be time conscious. I need to understand their interests as well, just to be able to get a clear expectation of what they actually expecting from the project as well.
So
So
you've gone beyond. So just from what you're saying, you've actually missed out the question entirely. You've
absolutely,
answered
yeah.
the question maybe 30%. The rest of it had nothing to do with the question. It has more to do with stakeholder engagement and project communication. That's all of these other things that you were saying.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So when they
yeah. Okay. So I just wanted to
go
just
ahead.
get clarity on that part. Like, get when they say that elicitation itself, are you just explaining to them how to just get the requirements, or is more about getting from beginning or to the end, understanding what the project's all about, and then to when you pass the project completed sign off requirement down to developers, to
Yeah.
work
So
on the project. So
that question particularly is a competency-based question. Now, the competency-based question has two parts, the technical and the behavioral. The technical in terms of you have the skills, and then how did you do the job? So that's why it's competency based, because that's when they'll say this person is competent. You're competent because of the way you did the job and the fact that you got the job done. So that is a competency that you've put together. So for that question, if they ask you how, give us a time, give us a project on how you've managed elicitation for requirements, you said that you can say straight off the bat, when it comes to elicitation, I need to understand my stakeholders. And so I will start every elicitation by understanding who exactly my stakeholders are, based on their needs and whatever departments they are, the different type of stakeholder groups. I will then design an elicitation framework or elicitation plan that would work best for them. And there are different plans that I use. It could be a workshop, it could be interviews, it could be focus groups, it could be, of course, observing them, shadowing them. And I'll give you a quick example of something that I've done in the past. Then you go into your example and say, when I was working with my company on designing a bot, you said, for customer interactions, the first thing that we did, why did we even know we needed to design a bot? We were having increasing customer complaints, and my customer services unit was unable to handle it. And so we knew that we needed to bring in some level of automation. You've set the strategy there. You've delivered your competence and you have set the strategy. That is commercial awareness. So once we knew that we needed to do that, of course, I started to talk to the customer team. I reviewed user-generated data to understand the type of complaints exactly that they were having. Once we understood that, we had some customer surveys sent out because we're dealing with customers, and I needed to get in that feedback so that we're designing a system that was fit for purpose. I then looked at the back end of things, analyzing the information when we get it and how that information was going to be used, because again, that is really important in the type of solution that I give. And so I talked to the customer services team, the operations team. We had workshops with them. Once we had those sessions, I documented their requirements. I aligned it to the goal by prioritizing, and then I did a walkthrough. Once I got a sign off, and then we went ahead with the rest of the project. But that's how I will start with my discovery and elicitation phase. I'm happy to go forward if you want me to go forward. Or does this answer your question? Finish. I've still sat on
okay.
elicitation.
Okay, okay, no, okay, yeah, clear now. Okay,
Yeah.
that makes more sense now.
Yeah,
Really
you
appreciate
absolutely
your
have to
clarity.
prove that competence, that you know what, because that is just dealing with your discovery phase. That's all you're dealing with in that question. So if you go further, you're not quite sure. Now, elicitation happens all through, right? But for this question they were asking you, they were dealing with your discovery. So it was the beginning parts they were dealing with. So you needed to show them the fact that you do your stakeholder analysis, the fact that you understood your root cause analysis, the fact that these are the different elicitation techniques that you would use, and that's how you pull it all together. Yeah,
All right, thank you so much.
no problem at all. Guys, any other question? Fantastic. All right. So let me let you guys go since we don't have any other questions anymore. But it was great to have this conversation with you guys, and go back and watch it over and over again. You might learn something new the next time you watch it. And if you have any questions, please pop it in the WhatsApp group. Some things I'll do for free, some things I'll bill you because your babe needs money for Christmas. But on the whole, it's always great to have this. Yeah, it's always great to have these interactions with you. And then please talk to somebody about my BA Launchpad. Get somebody else to register, and you as well. If there's stuff that you don't quite understand, then you might need to just get a bit more coaching. And let's talk. Thank you all so much. And yes, I will share the recording. I remember. Thank you. Bye, everyone. Have a lovely weekend.